Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. Big news when it comes to the Oyster Perpetual line. All right, so let me take you back a couple months. I made a video talking about whether you could buy an OP and change out the dial. As we know, the Oyster Perpetuals, you can't find them in stores. They're selling for crazy premiums, and it's those crazy dial colors. People love them. And I was thinking, could you just buy a lesser expensive version and change out the dial at RSC? Now, here's the system. If in the reference number there's no color indicator, you can do it. That's the system that they use. And so, for example, a 16570, an Explorer 2, if you have a white dial, you can change it to a black dial. Of course, you have to pay for the black dial, and you have to pay the service charge to make that happen unless you have it done during an overhaul. And depending on what country you're in, you may or may not get that dial back. Here in Japan, you get it back. In the past, you'd get it back for free. These days, you'd have to pay 40% of the cost of the new dial to get that old dial back. All right, but you could do it. That's the point. A BLNR, a BLRO, that's part of the reference number of the GMT Master 2, so you couldn't switch out the bezels, all right? So that's the system. Now, the Oyster Perpetual line, there's no color indicators in the reference number, and so my thinking back in the day is that you should be able to do it. I asked, and they didn't know yet. Basically, Rolex hadn't made the decision, but this comes from Agent M in Europe, all right? Thank you, Agent M. In fact, he just sent me another scoop. I'm going to probably make a video about that. It's a long email. I haven't even read it yet. I want to get to this one first. But again, this is big news if you have an OP, and especially if you're getting ready to buy an OP, and especially if you're getting ready to buy an OP on the gray market and are going to pay a premium for that certain dial that you want. Okay, here it is. So he bought a 41 millimeter green dialed Oyster Perpetual, and when he was buying it, he asked the authorized dealer, could he change out the dial in the future? And here it is, you can. And here's the even bigger news. The cost, 400 euro to have it changed out. That's including the service charge. That's really not very expensive considering you're getting a brand new dial. Do you get to keep the old dial? Yes, you do. Now, it could depend on the country. I don't know if countries in Europe have different rules, but in his country in Europe, you can. Again, in other countries, you might not be able to get the dial back. But that's the big news. And what is it going to mean for the gray market premiums that are on the really popular models? I think it's the Tiffany blue dial. I think it's called like the light blue dial or the turquoise dial, right? That's the way Rolex terms it. That's the most popular dial here in Japan. I know the red is popular. I mean, look, they're all popular, but there's a sort of hierarchy depending on what area you're in, perhaps, of which go for the most. And this is going to turn it on its head because you can buy the cheapest version, go to RSC, assuming this is correct, okay, in Europe, and for 400, get that dial, right, that you want. And it's going to be much cheaper. So I think it's the silver dial that goes for the least on the gray market. And so you could buy that and then take it to RSC, assuming this is all true, and have it switched out for whatever dial you want. And that would help you to save. Be careful, all right, because the silver dial, the hands are different. So you'd have to pay for different hands for that one. So that's probably a bad example. You'd probably want to choose, if you're going to do this, the cheapest model, but with the same hands, because those hands are going to add 160 or so USD to the price. Okay, so anyway, my whole point there is this whole premium of the hot versions, that's going to change overnight. And look, are there people out there that have stockpiled these, that have a whole set of all the different colors? Maybe. And what does that mean for them? I mean, if they never allowed this and in the future they discontinued some of these dials, and they might still do that, then that would make sense to have all of those colors. But I'm not sure having a set of all of these different colors makes sense anymore. So this is big news, especially if you have an OP Or if you're planning to get one, and if you're right on the fence thinking, do I really want to splash out for that certain color that I want? I mean, it's like 2,000, 3,000 more. Just wait until 2021, and then you can make, I think, a better move, assuming this is true. And that's my last caveat. He used his real name, he's got his picture in the email, and everything seems legit. So take it with a grain of salt, but for me, I think he's right on the money. And just to confirm, he actually called another authorized dealer. They said the same thing. All right, guys, let me know what you think about this. This is huge for all you OP guys. Take care. Thanks for watching. See you next time.